What if the number your doctor is trying to lower isn't actually the root of the problem? Most people are told a very simple story about blood pressure. The number is high, so the goal is to bring it down. A prescription is written, the number improves, and the situation is considered handled. On paper, that approach makes sense. But in reality, it often overlooks a deeper biological process that has been building quietly for years. Cardiologists have a term for that deeper process. It's called sympathetic overdrive. This refers to a state in which your nervous system, specifically the sympathetic branch, is chronically activated. This is the part of your body responsible for the fight or flight response. It increases heart rate, constricts blood vessels, and floods your system with stress hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline. In short bursts, this system is life-saving. It prepares you to respond to danger, but when it stays switched on continuously, it begins to cause harm. Your body was not designed to live in a constant state of alert. The autonomic nervous system operates in two modes. The sympathetic mode prepares you for action. The parasympathetic mode restores and repairs. Ideally, your body moves fluidly between these two states depending on what is required. But for many adults, especially men over 40, this balance is disrupted. Chronic stress, poor sleep, sedentary habits, and inflammatory diets push the sympathetic system into overdrive, where it remains active far longer than it should. When this happens, your heart is effectively working overtime, even when you're at rest. What a useful way to think about it is like a car engine revving at high speed while parked. The engine isn't broken, but it is being strained unnecessarily. Over time, that strain leads to wear and damage. The same is true for your cardiovascular system. The elevated blood pressure that shows up during a medical check is not the disease itself. It is a symptom. It is the visible indicator of an underlying imbalance. To manage this symptom, doctors often prescribe medications known as beta blockers. These include commonly used drugs such as metoprolol, atenolol, and bisoprolol. These medications work by blocking beta-adrenergic receptors in the heart and blood vessels. Normally, stress hormones bind to these receptors and stimulate increased heart rate and force of contraction. Beta blockers effectively reduce the stimulation, slowing the heart and lowering blood pressure. From a clinical standpoint, this works. However, it does not eliminate the underlying signal being sent by the nervous system. The sympathetic system may still be highly active, continuously releasing stress hormones. The medication simply prevents those signals from fully reaching their targets. There is another important biological consideration. When receptors are consistently blocked, the body often compensates by producing more of them. This process is known as upregulation. Over time, the system becomes more sensitive, not less. If the medication is suddenly stopped, these extra receptors are exposed to normal or elevated levels of stress hormones, which can result in a rapid and potentially dangerous increase in heart rate and blood pressure. And this phenomenon is well documented in clinical pharmacology. Frischman, 2003, Bangalore et al., 2007. That is why abrupt discontinuation of beta blockers is strongly discouraged. Beyond this, beta blockers can affect more than just the heart. Beta receptors are present in the brain and other tissues. Blocking them can influence cognitive function, energy levels, and mood. Some patients report fatigue, reduced exercise tolerance, and difficulty concentrating. Studies have shown that certain beta blockers may cross the blood-brain barrier and affect central nervous system activity, contributing to these effects. Ko et al. 2002, Wisonge et al. 2017. Sexual dysfunction has also been reported in a subset of patients. Research indicates that this can be related to reduced vascular responsiveness and altered autonomic signaling, Duma et al., 2006. It is important to emphasize that these medications are often necessary and can be life-saving. They are prescribed based on careful medical evaluation, and for many individuals, they provide critical protection against serious cardiovascular events. However, there is a growing recognition that lifestyle and dietary interventions can play a powerful complementary role. Certain foods contain bioactive compounds that influence the same physiological pathways targeted by medications, including vascular tone, inflammation, and autonomic balance. While these foods are not substitutes for prescribed treatment, they can support cardiovascular health and may, over time, contribute to improved clinical outcomes when used alongside medical care. One example is celery. Celery contains a compound known as 3N-butylphthalide. This compound has been studied for its potential to relax the smooth muscle and blood vessel walls, leading to vasodilation and reduced vascular resistance. Animal and preliminary human studies suggest that this mechanism may contribute to modest reductions in blood pressure. Tsai and Tan, 1997, Houston, 2011. Another group of beneficial nutrients comes from fatty fish such as salmon, mackerel, and sardines. These fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA. Omega-3s have been shown to reduce inflammation, improve endothelial function, and modestly lower heart rate and blood pressure. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that omega-3 supplementation was associated with reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure, particularly at higher doses. Miller et al. 2014. Additionally, omega-3s may influence cardiac electrophysiology and autonomic tone. Beets are another well-researched food in this area. They are high in dietary nitrates, which are converted in the body to nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that promotes vasodilation by relaxing blood vessels. Numerous randomized controlled trials have demonstrated that beetroot juice can lead to measurable reductions in blood pressure, often within hours of consumption. Kapil et al. 2015, Ciervo et al. 2013. Garlic has also been studied extensively. When garlic is crushed or chopped, it produces allicin, a sulfur-containing compound. Allicin has been associated with improvements in vascular function and reductions in blood pressure. A meta-analysis of randomized trials found that garlic supplementation significantly reduced blood pressure in hypertensive individuals. Wright et al., 2016. The mechanism may involve increased nitric oxide availability and modulation of vascular smooth muscle. Dark chocolate, particularly varieties with high cocoa content, contains flavonols. These compounds have antioxidant properties and can stimulate nitric oxide production in the endothelium. Studies have shown that regular consumption of flavonol-rich cocoa products can lead to small but meaningful reductions in blood pressure and improvements in vascular function. Grassi et al., 2015. Hooper et al., 2012. Taken together, while these foods illustrate how dietary patterns can influence key biological systems involved in blood pressure regulation, they do not act as direct replacements for medications, but they support the body's natural regulatory mechanisms. It is essential to approach this topic with balance and caution. No dietary intervention should be used as a reason to stop prescribed medication without medical supervision. Any adjustments to treatment must be guided by a qualified healthcare provider, supported by consistent monitoring and clinical evaluation. At the same time, the idea that lifestyle changes can meaningfully impact cardiovascular health is well supported by research. Large-scale studies, including those on dietary patterns like the DASH diet, have demonstrated that nutrition can significantly lower blood pressure and reduce cardiovascular risk. Apel et al., 1997. What this means in practical terms is that individuals have more influence over their health than they might realize. But that influence works best when combined with professional medical care. Tracking progress is also important. Regular monitoring of blood pressure, along with attention to sleep, stress, and physical activity, provides valuable data. Over time, these patterns can help guide decisions about treatment and lifestyle adjustments. The body responds to consistent signals. Years of stress, poor diet, and inadequate recovery can push it toward dysfunction. But gradual, sustained improvements in those same areas can move it back toward balance. This process does not happen overnight. It requires patience, consistency, and a willingness to engage with the process over the long term. But the potential benefits extend beyond numbers on a chart. Improved energy, clearer thinking, better sleep, and enhanced overall well-being are all part of the broader picture. In the end, the goal is not simply to lower a number, it is to restore balance within the systems that regulate that number in the first place. And that begins with understanding what is truly happening inside your body and taking steps, both medical and lifestyle-based, to support it.